Welcome to the Peak Studio 12.5 Performance Configuration video tutorial. In this video, I will discuss the recommended computer resources for Peak Studio 12.5, how to properly allocate resources, and how to change the performance configuration within Peaks. First, we recommend that you install Peaks 12.5 on a 64-bit Windows operating system with Windows 10 or later. The Peaks 12.5 installation folder uses approximately 7 gigabytes of space. Please ensure that both the drive where Peaks is installed and the drive containing your Peaks projects folder have a large amount of free space. The two major computer resources that impact Peaks performance are threads and memory. There are two license options for Peaks Studio, a 24-thread and a 48-thread license. These licenses indicate the maximum number of threads which can be allocated to Peaks. If Peaks is the only resource-intensive software on the computer, we recommend allocating a maximum of 80% of your total computer resources to Peaks. If you do use other resource-intensive programs on the same computer, you will want to leave more resources for those to operate properly as well. For a computer that will only be used to run Peaks, here are our recommended thread counts to get the most out of your license. For a 24-thread license, we recommend a minimum of 30 threads. For a 48-thread license, we recommend a minimum of 60 threads. It is also important that you allocate the appropriate amount of memory for your thread count. The formula used to decide how to allocate the memory in gigabytes is the number of threads allocated to Peaks times 2 plus between 8 and 16. So if you have 24 threads allocated to Peaks, you should allocate between 56 and 64 gigabytes of memory. If you have 48 threads allocated to Peaks, you should allocate between 104 and 112 gigabytes of memory. Allocating more or less memory than this may lead to issues during the analysis, such as crashes or errors, or may prevent results from properly displaying. In cases where you do not have enough memory, we recommend reducing the number of threads allocated to the appropriate number to work with the memory that you do have. The 80% rule still applies for memory as well. So we recommend a computer with a total of 70 to 80 gigabytes of RAM for a 24-thread license, or a total of 130 to 140 gigabytes of RAM for a 48-thread license. Peaks performance will depend heavily on resources, but also on the workflow selected and the nature of the data. If your computer resources are lower than the recommendations, Peaks may still work for you, depending on your specific goals. Please feel free to reach out to us at support@bioinfor.com if you are unsure whether your computer will be able to run Peaks. Some workflows in Peaks can make use of a GPU resource. A GPU is required for Peaks to run the DeepNovo algorithm. The standalone DeepNovo workflow will be grayed out and unavailable if your computer does not have a compatible GPU. The DeepNovo peptidome workflow can still be run without a GPU, but it will default to using the DeNovo algorithm instead. Running DeepNovo peptidome with a GPU enabled does not necessarily mean your analysis will run faster. Whether the analysis is faster or slower with the GPU depends on the nature of your samples. A GPU resource will benefit the DIA workflows by speeding up certain steps of the analysis. A GPU is not required for DIA data analysis, but it is recommended. For a GPU to be compatible with Peaks 12.5, it must be updated to at least CUDA version 12.3, have a NVIDIA CUDA compute capability of at least 8 for DeepNovo, or at least 5 for DIA, and have at least 8 gigabytes of memory. Now that we have gone over the recommended computer resources, Let's take a look at how to change the performance configuration within Peaks. To access the performance configuration settings, click on the Configurations tab and Performance Configuration. This will open up a window. Under Computer Resources, you'll see your total available memory in megabytes and your total thread count for your computer. Allocated Resources for Peaks Studio shows the resources that you currently have allocated to Peaks. After installation, Peaks will automatically choose how many resources to allocate based on your computer, but this can be changed if desired. We can see in my example that I have a total of 24 threads and 65 gigabytes of memory on my computer. I have allocated 18 threads to Peaks, which is less than 80% of my total threads, and I have allocated 52 gigabytes of memory, which is twice the allocated threads plus 16. It is also only 80% of my total available memory. The Detach Service JVM box below is checked by default. Checking this will automatically allocate 2 of the total threads and 8 gigabytes of the total allocated memory, specifically for user interface updates. In rare cases, unchecking this may be a solution for some users experiencing out-of-memory issues when running large projects, or for users with very low resources. We recommend leaving it checked for most users. Under GPU Resource, you have the option to enable or disable the GPU. You will only have the option to enable the GPU resource if your computer has a compatible GPU. Underneath, you can see each compatibility requirement, and you can see whether your GPU meets them. Any requirement not met will display in red. If you make any changes to the performance configuration, then you will need to close and reopen Peaks before it will take effect. We hope this video on Peaks performance configurations was helpful to you. For more information about Peaks, please visit our website bioinfor.com. Thank you for listening.